This is Shaun Frank. It's my boy Hunter Siegel. We're in the Rave Cave, and we just finished a guest mix for Spin Sessions, and I thought we would open up our new collab shapes for the second episode of In the Rave Cave, and maybe just go through it a bit and show you guys a couple things that we did in this track. And I thought it'd be cool to have Hunter here because,
Because I did stuff.
Because he did some stuff and I did some stuff. And, I haven't opened this up in a while, so let's just go through it.
I feel like we should talk about it.
Yeah.
How did this start?
I
actually remember how it started.
I
was driving back from Montreal from a gig in a car full of people.
Okay.
And you sent me this just to be like, what do I think of it? Like, it had nothing to do with it being for me. And I freaked out, and the whole car was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" Because we were playing.
Hold on, let me find the demo.
It was on.
It was called Oz.
Yeah, it was.
And remember, I was like,
had the worst vocal. And I was like,
yeah,
here it is.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, I love this. Can we do this as a collab? But we got to get rid of the vocal. And you're like, I don't know if we're gonna get rid of this vocal. That was what you said. You're like, I'm not sure if we're gonna get rid of this vocal. I really like it.
Well, you guys let me know if we should do another record with this vocal. But here, this is the first demo. This is what we started with. And I made that lead sound on the Moog.
No. Is it? I thought it was this thing.
Ba-dum-bum-bum.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah,
Pretty sure it's the Moog.
Yeah.
The what is that? A sub 37.
Sub 37,
Yeah, this is the demo. This is actually a vocal that Delaney wrote. She was like, "Yeah, I do." Because
my favorite part was you're like, yo, do you get it? It's like a reference to something. And I was like, yeah, man, I get it. We're not using it.
Yeah, like there's a lot. Some of the elements are still in there. Like
sure.
Anyways, that's where it came from, and then the drop
took a long time. The first thing I did to it,
it was slower too. Yeah, so it was just a very bit, but you obviously thought it was.
I thought it was fire, and because I played it in the car and everyone went crazy. The very first thing I did when I got the session was I chopped down all those ideas to just being the meat and potatoes of what the track would be.
Yeah, and I feel like the drums specifically are really a lot of your stuff.
Yeah.
That we're doing drum wise. Whoa, can't turn it up. Drums sound clean. Look how much processing there is on the drum bus.
That's crazy.
So let's talk about parallel compression just really quick here. And I gotta actually, before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to Synaptic, who actually hooked me up with these plugins, but they're amazing. I actually found out about these plugins from Weethan, who found out about these plugins from Zed.
So shout out to Zed.
So shout out to Zed for the tip on these Synaptic
thanks,
plugins, and shout out to Synaptic for hooking me up with the plugins.
Thanks for getting at us and letting us know, Zed.
This plugin Intensity is actually it's one of those plugins you just put it on and turn it up, and it makes everything sound better. I don't exactly know what it's doing. Those guys over at Synaptic are doing some voodoo with this stuff, but this one specifically is just a great bus processing plugin. You can hear the drums without it. They just bring them to life a little bit. Something to do with the EQ curve here, something to do with the bias. Anyways, great plugin. And we're using a bunch of compression, but I thought maybe just because I saw this, it might be cool to talk about parallel compression. Parallel compression is where you basically mix the dry signal of something with a compressed signal, and with drums it's really effective.
I feel like you should explain though, the purpose of doing something like that, especially in parallel compression, because this will help you sort of understand the various uses this has.
Yeah, and we might.
So
go ahead.
If you're with something like drums, what a really compressed second signal being mixed into a dry first signal is going to do is bring up everything that's in the spaces in between the drums that's quiet. So it's going to really drive some of the floor sound of a hi-hat. Very true. It's going to drive the tail of a snare. Another really good thing you can use it for that a lot of people do is this guy Andrew Sheps does this. He has a plugin I think that even does it. He'll put it on a bus of just the whole track that's everything except I forget one layer. He doesn't put it on maybe it's on the vocal and the music, not the drums, I think.
Yeah.
And he'll do that so that when a vocal stops, it doesn't sound like suddenly all the energy is dead. Like it brings up all the rest of the sound.
Yeah.
Like from from the bottom. This is my sign for compression. That's what it
Yes,
does.
that's what it does.
But it's sort of like it brings it, smushes everything in between the vocal. It's like all the music, and it makes it feel like it's not dying in energy as much in like dead spaces of the track where there's not as much energy.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. And also, like I should mention with drums,
I feel like you actually taught me that is the funny part.
with drums specifically, back in the day, you used to record a drummer and you would have the close mics, which is basically like your sample, like it's a mic right on the skin, and then you would also mic the room, and then the room, you would compress the room really hard, and it would give you this like really like awesome thick kind of like energy to the drums, and then you would just mix that like compressed room in, and in a way that was kind of how
noisy.
but with electronic music, like, we grab a clap and we grab all these like really dry samples. So a way to really like liven up your sound is to do some parallel compression on it. And I just want to show you. So on our drum bus, kind of at the end of the drum bus, we've got basically an Ableton rack with two chains built in. One is the dry chain, which I have at 0, it's nothing. And then I've added this compressed chain, which basically has a, I like this Blue Stripe compressor from UAD. And if you look at like, it's absolutely smashing it. Now, if you were to just like play with the compressed signal, like if you just put a compressor on it, it would sound like this, which is crazy. I'm actually going to turn the kick off for a sec. So this is our drums. And it's just, it's just overdone. Yeah, hold on. If I turn it up,
that's cooked.
It's cooked. You have no transients. So mixing that sort of really exciting kind of cooked signal with the dry signal is kind of nice. So usually I'll start it at 0 and I'll have the dry signal, right? And then I'll just kind of bring it in until it kind of just fills in those spaces between. Well, and also you'll notice here, like we're actually automating. If we look at the automation, I'm actually on the mix down here. We're automating actually like that compressed signal to change the vibe of the drums. I guess what is this? Oh, I guess on the riser it sounded.
Yeah, you probably don't want that on the riser. That's probably too much.
Yeah, well, we had it a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So moving on from drums.
I feel like there was something else really cool that we did. Hold up.
We actually.
I feel like we did something to this. Like, where's the actual? Can you go to the actual snare? I remember like there was like a massive difference in using like a similar method on like the snare itself, I thought, but that might be a difference. Like in the actual, or the clap, sorry. Yeah. So I remember like sitting here and you threw something on the clap and I was like, holy shit, it's way better now. Yeah, go to that 11. Yeah.
It's just more compression.
Yeah, but like play it without it. Yeah, that's making the whole clap. Like you can hear it bringing up all the quiet parts, which is kind of weird, but that can definitely compressing something like that in that way.
Yeah.
With something vintage like this can make it sound more full and whole.
Yeah, no, and you know what? A lot of people like the 1176 compressor is one of the most like classic compressors, but like a lot of people don't really know how to use it. Which is fine because sometimes like using things wrong gets you great results. But if you really want your compressor to give you that like nice compressed slappy sound, it's all about the release knob. If the release knob is over here at about, what is that, like 3, 4, 5 o'clock, which is basically a super fast release, you're going to get the best sound out of the compressor, because if it's slow, what happens is it's just never, it's like you're never hearing the compressor move. It's never doing anything. So it just clamps on and then it's hardly moving, and you're basically just running it through gear rather than hearing it pump. So try playing with the release a lot when you're playing with 1176 compressors.
But that sort of brings up a point about doing this, and that's that rather than sitting there on your main drum bus trying to crank your drums into oblivion to get them to sound the best they can, it's multi-staging things. It's 100%. Doing like a little compression here, a little compression there, a little compression later on the, I'm assuming on the master. There's some stuff going on too.
Well, yeah, and look at all the groups we have. Like everything's grouped and everything's within the groups. Thank you, Ableton, for groups and groups. It's the greatest thing ever. But we have all these different like groups inside the groups. You know,
I was like super posted. I was like, oh, it's gonna be too many groups. I don't need all that.
The
I
best
like
thing
buses,
ever.
but it's actually the greatest thing of all time. No, I know. I do the same thing now. Yeah, it's crazy.
Let's quickly just jump into the music section here.
Yeah. That's actually funny that it's just that.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's all it is.
Actually, the bass takes up a lot of this space.
It's funny.
The bass we chose is sort of got like a very like
Well, and people had also
mid-heavy sort of sound to it, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of people that had seen that. Obviously, I bought a lot of analog synths, and everyone's like, "Oh, that lead on that record is like so sick. Is that your Moog or is that your like OB6?" But really, it's actually Serum.
Yeah.
On the most basic setting ever. Really, it's just what's doing that. What's making it wide and kind of cool is just
Hoover. Yeah, it's just detune.
It's just the detune
sure.
On the Serum. So obviously, if you make it one, it's because there's two of them. Yeah, there's basically two waves that are both being. Yeah, so it's all about the two voices and then the slight detune. And that's kind of how you get that like really old school kind of ravey sound. The rest of the sounds, however, were done on the analog
No,
gear.
incorrect.
Incorrect?
Yeah,
What do we got here? What do we got here? What do we got?
I think the second thing is like a stab. What's that way? Oh yeah.
Hold on, let's see. Oh, are we gonna give away our secret plugin?
I think no.
The Rave Stab. Look at this group called Rave Stab. This is kind of I think this is the secret sauce of the record right here.
Yeah, I mean, it changed the entire thing. I feel like it opened the record up when we did that. Oh, it's frozen. We should probably just
Yeah, if you can find this plugin, there it is. I'll just leave it right there for 2 seconds. You can take a screenshot, and it's gone. Secret sauce right there. Let's see here. Again, using Volume Shaper for sidechaining on this record.
People are watching this and be like, fuck Hunter Siegel for not letting us see that. Shaun was down, man, and that Hunter.
It's true. If you weren't here, I would have showed them what it was.
Sure.
That's actually our dynamic. Let's look at the let's look at the bass quick here. It's funny because that's not totally in tune. This I did on the Moog. This was part of the first demo.
I mean, I don't want to advocate for things not being in tune, but sometimes it can add like an interesting little vibe.
This was all just stuff I did on the.
I write stuff that's not in tune a lot.
This is all just stuff I did on the Sub 37 back there on the original demo that ended up getting cut up. But of course, let's just see what we got here. Let's go down Sub. Oh yeah, the original demo had this like train sample.
Yeah. He really
hold on, did that make it into the record?
I don't know. Play it. I think it might for a second.
Oh, that's not the train. You know what that is? That's the yeah. That. I just wanted something that would have been in.
He fought for the train sound. For really, really hard.
There was a nightclub in Vancouver called The Government, or just Government.
In Vancouver?
Sorry, I'm an idiot. There's a nightclub in Toronto called Government.
With a U.
And it was one of the best. I'm eating. Can you tell them about it?
There was a club. It was called Government. It was a very strange and exciting place. It was called. I think it was called RPM before that, and it had been around forever. It'd been around for like 20 plus years, and this place was crazy. And I think the story he wants to tell is that we were in there one time, and he heard this they had this foghorn blast that they would put off, and it would be like.
I just love that
shit.
And
I remember he was like, oh, we should, not back then, while we were doing it, it's like, oh, I want to do something like one of those clubs that has, the foghorn in it.
Pull on, the thing?
Yeah. There's
Lavo, New York has it.
There's a different one in New York that has it.
There's one in Live where you push a button under the DJ. What's
the one in New York that had it? I played there.
Output?
No, it wasn't. No, it's not. Output would definitely never have something like that. It was I don't remember what it was called, but I played an after party there once, and we were just in, a foghorn war. Just me and Leighton from Adventure Club just pulling the horn at each other for it must have been, if you were in the crowd, it must have been the most annoying thing of all time because there was a horn unendingly every 2 to 5 minutes for an hour set.
I actually just remembered something, and I think it's worth talking about. We changed the kick on this song 60 times.
A lot of times.
We could not get the kick right.
We just couldn't decide on it.
A lot of times, if you're struggling with your record, 9 times out of 10, if you're struggling with the drop on your record, it's the kick.
It's either the kick or the relationship between the kick and the bass.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the most important points you can tell somebody trying to learn how to make their music better is that overall the kick and the bass is the most important part of your record. It's the entire identity of your entire song, and it's what carries. And no good record that you can listen to out there has a bad kick and bass relationship. It's 100%. Always amazing, and it's usually the best part of it. But further than that, I would even go as far as to say the first 20 milliseconds of your kick, in the lower range, around 200 and below, the subbiest range of it, that is actually the identity of your entire song, because that defines how the song is. If it's very like thick and sort of like it lives in that space a lot, then it's going to have a deeper kick. If it's like you want it to be like a punchier, higher kick, there's not going to be as much happening there. So it's sort of like that's really like the area to focus on the absolute most.
Absolutely. And like this, as you can see in this track, there's actually like, it's a mix of, it's actually just, it's 3 kick. Oh, it's 2 kicks. I just noticed something that is one of my like biggest pet peeves that I never I never want to do in a record ever.
And you left.
So I'm going to show you guys a mistake that was made on this record.
Yeah, mistakes are great.
And first of all, never do this. Never have a kick loop. Like, that's dumb.
You don't like that?
I don't like it when it's warping.
I'm
of a
different opinion.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm really happy with how the record sounds, so that's fine. But this kick should never have been warping. It should have been put.
Okay, but so here's the
properly
thing.
Done. It should have been unwarped. Look, it changed. Look, when you warp it, there's actually a difference in the kick. So here's the first kick is unwarped, and the second kick is warped. So I don't know, like, if it's that different, but like I don't love that we were. I don't love that we were warping a loop.
I make a lot. I use one of the things I always do is take my finished song and render out its drums into samples.
That's fine.
And but sometimes I render it into a loop and just leave it in the track. And I, for some reason, I don't find that bad, but I actually am with you on never having a loop in it.
Yeah, because right now it's compressing this loop into whatever timing. Anyways, let's talk about the vocals, because we don't have all day here.
I'm gonna make this take a long time.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I'm just joking.
No, you're good. But, oh man, so talk about the vocals a bit, because our boy Roshan couldn't be here, obviously, but Hunter did the vocal with Roshan, and we were on the phone a bit for it, but
at one point when we were trying to come up with something. It's actually really funny. The overall thing in this track that I find to be the most interesting part of the composition of it is that like So me and him have never had a collab together. We've been friends. We came up together. We had studios like in the same compound. He like rented me my studio. That was how we met. We sort of like started out the second act of both of our careers at the same time, and that was sort of what we bonded over as friends. But we just never could make a record. Like we would try, and our styles were just so opposing that we could never get a record that we both liked. And some of them were like cool, and like we tried some stuff, and they were like, you know, definitely each of us taking risks on either side to try to meet in the middle and have this song, but never good. One we almost released, that one that was going to get signed to Size.
Yeah.
And it was good, and they liked it, and then I think they took so long to hit us back about it that we were both like, we don't like this anymore. But it was pretty dope.
And interestingly enough, what people might not know is that like you were there in the room, like when I was finishing Shades of Grey, like with little ideas, and there were some of his 100%. Records. Maybe I was there, we were hey, maybe like move that chord, and like there was a little bit of like
in Waiting Up. One of the things that we would always do, and he was there for most of putting Waiting Up together, which was like my first song that broke me out, I think. But one of the things that we would always do at that time was sort of like we were always involved in each other's music at that like finishing stage of like, let's get together and let's get this song done and finish that shit.
Which is the hardest part.
Which is the hardest part of it. Yeah, for sure. So it was weird to like not have him around to do that anymore. But so we're sort of like getting away from the point though, which is that part of, I think, if I had to theorize why we never got a song done, was that we were each holding too true to what we wanted in it and not caring enough about the other person's identity in the track. And what's interesting about why this happened was I feel like we both made the part that you would think the other person contributed, because we were both sort of trying to get something like almost in a competition, like competitive way to be like, yo, I want him to like this. So like when I sat down to do the vocal, I was like, okay, Shaun loves short, catchy vocals. He doesn't want to hear like a verse over this. He wants to hear the like most short little thing. It's got to be catchy. It's got to have like a pop appeal to it. It's got to apply to something. It's got to like exist in some sort of world that someone's going to relate to.
And I just want to cut in there because I actually had a couple tweets today. People were like, there was a couple people asking me when I was going to do this video if I would cover how to write a great hook, and I was kind of like, that's really tough. Like that's like impossible. How do you do it? But it's interesting because one of the things that happened with this hook was actually tightening it up, because when you guys first went in and did it, there was a lot more lyrics in this.
There was more lyrics. And it's really funny because Roshan is like a great rapper, but he's not like super into like, or like he's getting into it now because of me and Shaun, but he's not like as into dance music. So most of my job in the writing session is being like, all right, like backstage wristband. What's some other things that like people like and like do in like raves? Okay, yeah, cutting shapes. He's like, what does cutting shapes mean? I'm like, it's a dance. Yo, this song should be about the dance.
Cut
man.
shapes all day.
There you go. I was like, yo, if it was about the dance that they're gonna do to the song, like that's a cool thing, and that's sort of where it started.
100%.
And this song actually used to have the corniest line. It was like something AAA wristband. It's a rave on stage, and it was like it was really bad. Like
I know. I think actually you guys had
Cut shapes all day.
in there, and
it was in there earlier.
and I think it was like I was like, let's try to like center the hook around that. So like if everything can build to that point, so then it kind of like we were kind of taking the best lines.
Just got to the club. I want to dance with you, babe.
It's crazy because there's
Make room on the floor. Cut shapes all day. Just got to the club.
and that
I
was
want to
different
dance with you,
than-
babe.
Yeah.
Make room on the floor. I need a little space.
I didn't want to need a little space. I remember being like, that should just be cut shapes all day again. But actually, it's so sick because
I mean, it makes sense to me. I wanted it to be like that because I thought,
Well, because this is the best part right here.
I need a little space.
I need a little space.
This part's so sick. It's really sick. I feel like a video like this we should have the processing of the vocal here to show you guys. But I actually it's rendered and it's in a different session, so this is all I can show you. But
I think that's on my computer.
I do
actually.
think we should solo this section of the song and play it out because it's so funny.
Cut shapes all day. On stage?
On stage?
On stage? Give it to me now, like, whoa.
Give it to me now, like whoa.
All day?
This is my favorite.
This
right
is the best one.
All day when I cut up the shapes and I cut in the shapes.
So like, okay, that actually was, we were just literally joking around. I was like, all right, just do some dumb shit because I wanted to cut a bunch of like woos and yeahs for like other portions of the track. But
like this.
yeah,
We got a woo right here.
that was what I wanted it for. I was like, yeah, just give me some extra stuff because it's always when you're working with vocalists, you definitely, if you're not able to get them to come back, especially, you definitely want to get them to give you more than you think you'll need.
100%.
And so I was like, yeah, just give me some stuff. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's run the beat. Just yell some dumb shit. Like I literally said that was my direction to him on this was that. And he only did one take of it. And that is the whole take. And it was really funny. I left it in there. What's it called? I left it in there because I was just like, all right, whatever. Like if this part doesn't matter. We're going to work on this later. Yeah. I think what happened was we got like demo love for that part of it, having this like yelled thing over top of it. And I remember sitting down to play in the track at one point, and he's like, yeah, so do you guys want me to do that again? Like, cause I was just joking around, and I was like, you know what? I kind of think it vibes though. Like,
yeah.
I don't like why. I mean, it's already in there. It's kind of like it doesn't make a huge difference to the record what that is. You know?
I think it's amazing actually. If you're working with a vocalist, it's always dope to get them to do like a bunch of random like ad libs in your record because sometimes those like little ad-libby things are what make the record like really dope. You put them in behind, you process them in ways like a lot of that vocal chop stuff you hear in the back of like Skrillex records. He has so many cool like ad-libs going on. Like some of my favorite producers, they have a lot of ad-libs. So yeah, like having the vocalist just like throw down a bunch of randomness at the end of the session is pretty important. Delaney Jane just walked in.
Ladies and gentlemen.
What are you talking to?
We're talking to the people that are watching us in the Rave Cave.
Hello, welcome to the Rave Cave.
What's up? I can cut this part out.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Sam,
I'm starving.
Hunter Siegel gets a hug. I get shit.
You gotta hurry
I get a
up.
pat on the head. I just want to open up this old session here, so it's probably not going to sound. The record's not going to sound right, but it's close enough. But you can see some of the things that we got going on the vocals, and I just wondered where's the main vocal because I wanted to like just look at the processing on it.
I
Just
probably
see what
did
the
it, so
chain is.
a lot of it is probably. Yeah, there it is. That's it.
So on the lead vocal, because everyone's always asking me, what do you put on your vocals?
Do they ask you like that?
Low
Do their
cut.
voices get high pitched when they ask?
Low cut. My favorite vocal processing plugin ever is this. You got to get it.
Oh, yo, dude, I totally turned the gate up.
That's
Always
fun.
now. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, you can turn the gate up. Yeah, it's actually cool. But
Yeah.
you can either gate it, or you can just, which gate does is it just kills like when it gets quiet or there's noise. It'll just like between the words, it'll just like cut it. But you can also just cut the audio, which is what I do. You know, a little bit of correction. This is there's always like if a vocalist is too close to the microphone, you're gonna get what's called proximity effect down in this range here. Sounds kind of like this. That shit. It's not a nice frequency for vocals. It's around 250. It's good to compress 250 on a vocal. Usually, if the vocalist is too close to the mic, just taming the highs a bit. What else we got? Little low shelf again, just kind of getting rid of those lows. Smashing it with parallel compression. So you know how we talked about parallel compression before on the drums, on the vocal as well. What it does for vocals is it kind of just it makes it so that like you can kind of like hear every word and every detail.
And in this instance right here, oops, way too loud. It's actually this mix knob. You're not making a second track like you did earlier, I don't think.
Exactly.
It's this comes with its own ability to do that inside of the plugin.
Because you've got dry wet. So like for example, if on this Distressor plugin, which is one of my favorite compressor plugins ever.
You have a real one over there.
I have the real one, but for this it's easier. And the real one doesn't have this dry wet, so this is actually almost better than the real analog one. But all the way up is very compressed, and so you can just kind of like add a little bit of that compressed signal in. And I'm actually think I'm doing it. I'm double compressing this. I'm double parallel compressing this vocal. This is another cool plug, which is
we have that just going on it as an effect. It's not echoing.
That's giving us our kind of puts it in a room, in a space. So that's a little slap.
It's almost like using like a doubler from. There's a good one that lots of you probably have Waves. There's a really good one from Waves. It's great.
Yeah.
And that's actually an effect they use in a lot of like current rap. Will have that, like tons of Travis Scott records. They use a doubler. On even more than one layer to give it that you hear something, you're like, why are there like a million of them talking? It's like. Just using a doubler. Yeah, exactly. The doubler, so it sounds like this. Right, and you mix it with the regular. So basically, what it is it's a delay, but it's like so short that it's almost like not even like a millisecond late or whatever. Right there, you know? It's delaying the left side 14.3 milliseconds and the right side 24, and so it just splits it out wide. Yeah. It makes it feel like there's it's called the Haas effect, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you can Google the Haas effect and learn about that. I mean, it's actually, is it doing it here? Yeah, I guess that is doing the Haas. Cutting some highs, and then I use this CLA vocal thing a lot. Like I hate these plugins that kind of like do everything for you. But then they're so ghetto. But then I put it on, and it's like I put it on, and it's like great. So that's the vocal chain. The CLA vocal's not always on. Apparently, it's only turning on for. Maybe it's only turning on to basically it's just adding like some extra oomph to the vocal. So we have it on the drop to make it come out on the drop a little more. Cut shakes all day. Yeah, it's a nice sample. I love this. That sample sounds great. One of the things I wanted to point out just on an engineering standpoint, because I've seen people make this mistake, but you see how I've got this utility at the end. This utility basically acts as my like master volume of volume writing of the vocal. But what's important is that it's not over here. You know, the utility is at the end, and the reason the utility needs to be at the end for the final sort of volume writing, it's like, oh, I want to turn up that vocal. I'm going to do it on this final utility, and the reason why, because as you can see, this is on the group of the vocals. It's the last thing before it goes to the master. This has to be after the compressors. If it's before the compressors, you're going to turn it up, and it's just going to make the compressor that's coming after it work harder. It's not what you want. So you want the vocal sound you have through all the compression to get louder. You want to put your utility or your, I don't know what it is in Logic or other programs, but basically your volume control needs to be after your compressors. But anyways, that's Shapes. I'm stoked on this record. It just came out on Spinnin', main label. We dropped a hilarious music video for it a couple days ago. Really excited about that. So check that out. And Hunter, you got some new records coming out that I've heard I'm really excited about. When do you think this is going to air? Probably going to air this in early January. Actually sooner. Sorry, sooner. Like I can't talk then. But, a week and a half. All right, cool. Well, you know what? Then I have some records coming out soon, and you'll see some more stuff from me coming up. Big announcements in January, though. Yeah, look out for Hunter Siegel's new music. It's amazing, and we got more stuff coming together. But until then, send me your questions, production questions. You know how to get me Instagram. You know how to get me on Snapchat, Twitter. Hit me up with your questions, and I'll try to answer them in the next Rave Cave episode. Peace out. Hit me up for your hair tips. I got all those for you.